All right, guys, well, welcome. This is our second to last meeting together. So we're glad everyone was able to come together this morning, and we're just gonna we have a few updates and things we'd like to go through. So just go ahead and grab the agenda in the chat. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Heather. Oh, we already did that too. So we're looking ahead for next year, and we're hoping to continue just having some touch points with you guys throughout the year. I think it's been helpful with all these new data systems coming on, and as we get better and better at using these systems, I think we're going to be able to bring new things to everyone and maybe really critically look at some of this data that we're going to have available to us. But kind of like we did this year, we are going to continue to try to be flexible and responsive to your data needs, which means, we're going to try to do some sort of combination of training and consultancy moving forward. So, if you have any suggestions about something that you would like to see covered or something that you're struggling with in your district or some particular data need, we'd love for you to reach out. Like, this is what this is for, to be responsive to what you guys need and be a support with your data needs. So that is the plan. So we will send this out to you as well. But if you want to jot down any of those dates, we'll kind of like review that at the end as well. So I'll go ahead and pass it to Heather, who will be going through a few of our updates.
Sorry, we're in the same room. So we are trying to coordinate. All right, there we go. So I'm just gonna try and run through these real quick so we can get into like the main parts of our agenda today. So we have National Student Clearinghouse. I think some of you joined us for last month's webinar that was focused on NSC. We just wanted to kind of bring this up again, let you guys know that they're still hoping to get your data uploads. There's a link here for some video tutorials to assist you in doing that. We also have a contact at NSC that you can get in touch with if you're having issues. We've linked the video from our March webinar for you all. And Javier and Lori and I aren't necessarily involved in the uploading of this data, so we don't have a whole lot of answers, but we can help you get the answers that you need. So let us know if you need anything. In terms of Tableau, this resource is kind of continue to evolve. It's now a statewide resource, so every school, every district is in this particular dashboard. You still have access to the TKCCC focused dashboard, and you can access any of our Tableau dashboards at any time through the link that's in the agenda. As always, please check your core dashboard uploading status. I think the majority of you are done. There are a couple little files here and there that haven't gone through that maybe need to be re-uploaded. So please just check that and see where you stand. The link is in the agenda, and we will be asking you all for your current year, your 2021 files in August. So nothing to worry about just yet. And then in terms of CalPass Plus, we have heard that all uploads are complete. So good job, and thank you all for getting that done. So now I think we are going to move on to Patty. Patty Zarco is joining us from californiacolleges.edu. Patty, do you want to share screen, or do you want me to keep advancing the slides for you?
Yeah, if you could drive the deck, I would really appreciate that, Heather.
Just let me know when you want me to advance.
So I wanted to go over just a couple data points that are being currently shared with partner districts. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. On a monthly basis, we are sending a similar snapshot of data to district leads. And for partner districts that are providing ethnicity and race information, we are also disaggregating that data in regards to student activity completion. So percent of Hispanic students who are liking careers, majors, and colleges, Asian American students, Black students. And so if you are receiving those short decks every month, I may be the person that's sending them to you, or Anna Garcia, and you're not seeing that disaggregated data, that's an indication that your district is not providing that to CCGI in your upload. And so I wanted to go over just a recap of what the application integration looked like for partner districts this past academic year. I want to go ahead and name that. I know that COVID and the circumstances created by distance learning impacted the utilization of the integration, but I am very, very happy to report that 961 12th graders started or completed a Cal State application, meaning that they launched it from californiacolleges.edu and that they migrated their course information over to the Cal State Apply application. The CCC Apply was the highest utilized, with 2,251 12th graders launching from californiacolleges.edu. That number is actually larger if we looked at 9th through 12th graders, as I do know there are some partner districts in your region that were using the platform for 9th graders who were applying to their local community college for dual enrollment. So way to go. That's an awesome number. The UC application integration is our newest integration. So we're seeing that, with just the landscape of this past academic year, 203 12th graders launched or started or completed that UC app, and then 816 12th graders submitted or completed a FAFSA or California Dream Act application. And so as districts are having conversations about what implementation will look like next year, we strongly encourage districts to populate target goals, as that's a great way to track the number of 12th graders that are using the platform for their college process. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. This is a snapshot of some of the data that's being shared to district leads monthly. And so this is a snapshot of partner districts in Tulare and Kings, then under career favorites, what does that look like? And so we have a representation of 8.6% of students. And that's registered student accounts. And so this actually changed a little bit from when I presented it at the counselor conference, as I know that students are still utilizing the platform, but that's capturing the top 5 careers. And then down at the bottom, you get a breakdown of what each grade level in terms of how many students are favoriting a career. And so I'll go ahead and just take a moment to let you review that and take any questions that you guys may have.
Patty, Michael Aikens, I wanted to ask you, you had mentioned that you were sending reports out to leads. So that would be whoever's leading, like our head counselor at the high school, our college and career counselor. Do you know, how do we find out who you have as our leads and are getting them in our district? Because I'm not receiving anything like this, so which is fine. But just wanted to find out and make sure everybody's getting what they need here in Dinuba Unified.
Okay, so I can tell you, so Manjeet Dale is our district lead in Dinuba. So Manjeet, at the start of partnership with CCGI, a CCGI data lead was identified, and that individual was working closely with our data team to ensure upload frequency. Similarly, on the implementation side of the house, a district lead was determined. And so Manjeet is the recipient of those emails. And just for you, Michael, if she were to forward that email to you, the PowerPoint that's embedded in that communication, the privacy settings are set to anyone. And so if she were to forward that to you, then you would be able to take a look at that. And then same question for Farmersville. I can look that up for you in just
Patty, we have the slide for that. We can probably
thank you, Lori.
kind of maybe grab it and move it up in the slide deck. So in the one that we've used before with everyone.
Perfect. Yeah. And then
Okay.
also,
I was the data lead for Dinuba, so I'm aware of this, but I'm retiring in June, so I need to make sure that everybody is getting everything they need. So, and so if you know anybody who is interested in a job over here in Dinuba, that job flew last Friday.
Okay. Thank you for that, Michael. Additionally, in addition to the emails that we're sending out, the district lead was also provided credentials for an SFTP folder. And what we're doing weekly is we're dumping student activity completion data every Tuesday into that folder. And so we've been communicating this directly to the district lead that what we're showing you is available to you as a district. It's going to be in file form and CVS file form, but you are receiving this data. And that really came from districts saying, I want to have a district snapshot of what the utilization of California colleges is like in our district. As you know, on the platform, you're able to run reports by site, but not by district. And so we set up the SFTP data exchange with districts to give them that full district glance. And so, yeah, just to confirm your question, Michael, that would be Manjeet. And so we can go ahead and move on to the next slide. Oh, we have, I'm sorry. Can you go back one to college favorites? Yes. And so this is a reflection of the top 5 colleges that students are favoriting in Tulare and Kings. And you can definitely see that seniors are utilizing that like feature more than other grade levels. Any questions about the college favoriting slide? Okay, we can go ahead and move on. And majors, and this one shifted a little bit from when I presented at the counselor conference, as once again students are on the platform. I do just want to say that majors are the area that the fewest students are liking, and I think that just may be a reflection of the specific lesson plans that districts are choosing to roll out. And so you'll see both in the top 5 majors that less than 10 is to protect student identities, that we if it's less than 10 students, we just use that language there. Any thoughts, reactions to the college career and major data? No. Okay. All right. So I really look forward to working with each and every one of you as you guys prepare for the next academic year. I do want to promote a statewide CMP webinar that we are hosting. The date is May. Oh, and I can't even remember the date. Give me one second. We are providing webinars for districts to come and attend. I know that CMP cleanup is something that is starting now, or that has already commenced because of the CMP phase that we're in. And so May 12th is our last CMP webinar for the school year. And I can go ahead and forward that invite to Lori. That invite was sent out to educators that in the conversation of CCGI partnership identified themselves or somebody else as somebody that works or has some level of oversight with CMP cleanup. And so I can send that invite to Lori and see if she would like to send that out to folks. But thank you guys very much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, real quick, I must be in the wrong slide deck, Heather. I moved that slide up in the slide deck to show the district leads.
I think the only other question was for Farmersville, and I can just
Okay.
look up real quick. That might have been in the original deck, because I know that I've given you, I think, 2 decks with similar content.
It was in there. We have it hidden because we weren't sure exactly which
okay.
ones from the previous one you wanted to share, so we can pull it back into the view.
Okay. Erica Gonzalez de la Cruz is the district lead in Farmersville. All right, once again, thank you guys so much. And if you should have any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and place my email in the chat. Happy to connect. Can't spell colleges.
Here we go. All right. Thank you, Patty.
Mhm.
Really appreciate that. Let me get this up and running. Hopefully everything gets recorded properly. We also have a report that we want to share coming from our friends at PACE. They recently reached out mainly because several of the districts that are involved in the development of this report in this study are from our region, our districts, and so one of the little benefits of our partnership with CORE and their partnership with PACE is the fact that some of this research now kind of connects to the schools in our region. If you do have access to the slides, the pink PACE report there is a link that'll take you to the actual like a draft of the report. But we'll kind of touch on some things from that report here in the next few minutes. I'll have a link posted in the chat, and I'll make sure that that makes it into the agenda, just so you don't miss it if you don't have the slides up on your computer. Some of the things that were talked about in the report is the fact that, you know, for the safety of our children, for the safety of our communities, you know, California took a very cautious approach when it came to schools and getting students back. I know at this point, many of you guys are, at least in part, back to having some students on campus, but we were largely remote learning for the major part of this year, and all the fun things that kind of come along with that. I know many of you guys probably iterated on schedules an obscene number of times, but considering the fact that California was fully remote, one of the things that's highlighted in the report is, like, perhaps we might experience some larger than average effects from school closures than the nation at large. Now, another thing that you might not find surprising is that, and there are some kind of considerations about whether they call this learning loss or learning lag, or in some cases, learning acceleration, that the students that are affected most by the pandemic and school closures are those that are economically disadvantaged, are our English learners, and our Latinx and other historically marginalized student groups. They tend to show larger amounts of lag in the same time frame, according to the way this study was conducted. The way this study was conducted is that they took, in the case where they had some special sharing of certain assessments from districts, in this case, the MAP from NWEA, the STAR, or the iReady, they had to use these because they didn't have CASP data per se. We didn't have a CASP last year, so there was nothing to compare to there. So they were able to dip into some of the samples of interim assessments that folks take, stuff that people take during the course of the year, and assess that way. Now they do also note that there are some differences in the populations of students that they have access to according to each of these assessments. So for example, on the map, they have more English learners and more Latinx students, more economically disadvantaged students, whereas on the iReady, they have a larger proportion of white students, fewer students with disabilities, and fewer students that are economically disadvantaged. So there are some differences depending on which assessment was being sampled. So those are the three there. You can actually see the actual numbers according to each of these assessments compared to the state population. This is in the report, obviously. This is the second table. You'll also notice that the iReady does not have the math assessment. It's just ELA. So if you want math specific results, you're looking at the map and the star for those, but you get a sense of which kind of makes sense. Now, one of those might be of more interest to you because that's the one you administer, but that's what that breakdown looks like. Anybody have any questions about the sampling of this so far? All right, we'll press on. Now, what they end up doing is they take all these years of data and kind of compute a growth model as they like doing, determining growth from one year to the next. You know, how did this third grader perform on an iReady exam compared to how they did in fourth grade and compared to how they did in fifth grade. They take those averages and then effectively build a model of what they expect the growth to look like from pre-test to post-test. And then they use those models to make a prediction of potential growth. And then when the actual result comes in, that's how they determine like the learning lag. If it's a month and a half, so they put it into terms of months, just because that makes sense to folks, even though it's a bit of a kind of a fiction. It's something like that. It's just a measure. But if a student was predicted to be at a certain level and it turns out that they scored lower than the model predicts, then that's how they determine like the number of months. They do this from fall to fall and then also from fall to winter. So you'll see some slightly different tables here. I don't have all of this visuals up on the slides, but you can see a lot of disaggregated data at the end of the report that kind of shows some interesting things. So here's a fall to fall learning change overall. On the left, you see the language arts. On the right, you see math. And you'll notice that they go grade 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8. The map results are in the teal. The star results are in that goldenrod color, and the iReady results are in the blue. If there is no bar, then the learning change in months of learning is 0. Basically, they matched the model. The predicted and the actual were identical. But in most of the cases, you're seeing the bars kind of extended down below, which means that there's, you know, the students are falling short of what the model would have predicted had they not had any school closures. And we can kind of see that there are some differences from one grade level to another, and also some minor differences across the different assessments that were used. And we also see kind of an interesting thing in that 7th and 8th grade for math actually like did better than predicted. Although as you may be kind of noticing, those error bars extend down below that 0 line. So it's hard to say definitively that yes, they did do better, because you know it's within the realm of the error. So I'll have you guys kind of take a look, react to that. If you are having any noticings, please post them in the chat. And if anybody wants to comment, I'll pause here for a second. Let me know if any comments come up. So right off the bat, we see that there does seem to be some difference depending on what grade level the kids are in, which sort of makes sense. Different kids at different ages might be affected differently by remote instruction. They might be more adaptable to it at some level, maybe less at others. Here's another diagram that shows the difference between the economically disadvantaged students according to the state accepted definitions versus the non-economically disadvantaged students. So we can see that if we aggregate, or if we distinguish the students based on that marker, economically disadvantaged students, by and large, are feeling the effects more of school closures, remote learning, and the consequences of the pandemic. And again, we see some interesting difference at the upper grade levels, grade 7 and 8, because again, some of the bars are above the line. You'll see some students kind of extending upward, particularly in math. And I know that for many of you guys, you guys are like, well, this is unsurprising. This is effectively what we might expect. But I think what is interesting, and I think the conversation that might be worth having, is this quantifies some of the things that we might have expected. And I guess the challenge for us now is to determine, all right, so like, how do we address this? What is it that we need to do? And I'm certain that many of you guys already have some plans moving into the fall, maybe even moving into the summer, to prioritize the needs of certain students, maybe even as students come back for this last little stretch of this school year here, where students prioritize to return. How do we plan on meeting the needs of our students and what these findings are kind of showing? The fall to winter learning change just kind of shows an extension of what we're seeing in the fall to fall. But again, learning change in months of learning is something that we see extend downward. But here we see definitively, like, math looks like not bad in 7th and 8th grade. Kind of an interesting one. Love to hear theories about that.
Well,
now they do note
I wanted to,
the sample was almost entirely distance only learning. So you don't have a lot of sites that were in a more hybrid or in-person model. So there wasn't much to kind of differentiate, like having a control group and an experimental group in real time. But basically they're comparing what happened this year to like what happened historically and what might be predicted. So they feel less confident about saying things about the differences between hybrid approaches, distance only approaches, and all of that stuff. And there is a link to the report. But I do want to kind of give you guys another opportunity to offer any take or how you and your district, how you and your sites, how you and your colleagues are thinking about approaching this as we move into the down cycle of this school year, hopefully getting a chance to kind of pause during the summer, but I know some folks have some pretty aggressive plans for the summer in terms of like teaching and learning, and then how next year's stacking up to look.
I just wanted to note a contrast that I saw in this when compared to a report that came out from the NWEA MAP early on in the pandemic, when they were trying to sort of project what learning loss might look like, and it was dire. I actually have it in front of me, and it says preliminary estimates suggest impacts may be larger in mathematics than in reading, and that students may return in fall 2020 with less than 50% of typical learning gains, and in some grades, nearly a full year behind what we would expect in this subject under normal conditions. So I just kind of wanted to highlight that, and the fact that, you know, this PACE report is showing that, yes, there was some learning loss, but it wasn't nearly as dramatic as was predicted. So I feel like that's a positive thing to highlight.
And on that note, I think many of you guys may be taking that into account and prioritizing socio-emotional supports and efforts, considering the fact that, you know, effectively we were kind of putting our culture back together. We're rebuilding a lot of norms, hopefully building a few new ones that are better than the ones that we had before. But for a lot of our students, like this has been a year of possible isolation, of folks that are used to living in community with one another, effectively kind of being disconnected from their community, at least in ways that they're used to interacting with those folks. So curious if anybody has any take on that. Yeah, thanks, Mike. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and advance this forward. I have no idea what's that. Should I keep sharing?
Core assessment stuff.
Okay. So still me. Ah, yes. So over the last way too many weeks, the question of assessment was bandied about the U.S. Department of Education, the state, and many of your offices, board meetings, cabinet meetings, and all the like, as people try to figure out, like, are we supposed to give the CASP this year? Are we giving the science test? Are we giving, like, what's going on with assessment? Now that I think most folks are locked into a decision, either giving the CASP or possibly giving a local assessment, whatever is considered most viable according to the parlance, or some combination thereof, I wanted to kind of highlight the fact that if you are giving a local assessment, you're probably doing so well aware that, you know, where the CDE would populate your SARC report with all of the disaggregated data. If you gave the CASP, if you're not giving the CASP, that doesn't happen automatically, and you're kind of on the hook to do all of the reporting and the disaggregating on those reports. CORE is offering to help with that at no cost. They're getting some private funding somewhere to help districts do that work. There is an interest form there on the slides if you are interested. They have already named the map, the iReady, the STAR, and the reading inventory as things that they feel pretty equipped to kind of handle. So if that's what you're giving as a local assessment and you want their help, even if it's not one of those, let them know, and they might be able to assist with the slicing and dicing of that data and populating the SARC for you guys, if you need that help. I know not everybody it needs that, but they are offering, and wanted to kind of pass that along. Who's doing up? That's you. All right, I'll just add that slides for you. I will do that if I can.
Okay. This is fun trying to coordinate being in the same room. So I just want to kind of quickly go over some upcoming events. As always, there's the monthly core convenings. It looks like there's only 2 left for this school year, and then they'll start again next year, and we'll get you guys those dates as they come up. Next week, there's also a really interesting event that's being put together by a committee of different COEs. It's like Riverside, Orange, San Bernardino. They got together and decided to put on this data science summit. We figured that was sort of up the alley of this group. So it's free to attend. It's May 6th from 8 a.m. to 1:30. There's a link to register. And there should be some really interesting things for you all to check out. So we would really encourage you all to go. This is their first event, so hopefully it will be successful and they will continue to do this because it's a great group of people. The next event is related to NSC. It's a webinar about analyzing your student tracker reports. That is on May 12th. I believe Patty also shared a CCGI event that is on May 12th. We'll have to add that into this as well. But it's earlier in the slides. And then there is also a Tableau event for anybody who is interested in learning more about Tableau. It is also a free event, and it is on May 18th from 9 a.m. to 2. So if you are using Tableau or interested in learning how it works, feel free to attend. We love Tableau. It's always interesting to go to these events and find some new little tricks and tools for using it. So we encourage you all to check out those events. And I just wanted to kind of go back to the PACE report and highlight the fact that 6 of our districts were included in that. There was only 19 districts included in the report. And so a third of those districts were Tulare Kings districts, which is great. And I think it just kind of speaks to the importance of being involved in core and us all having our data in there and the way that we can contribute to the research that is going on and participate in all of this. So it's great to have representation from our region. So we hope that you all are finding value in that and will continue to utilize their services because they're really trying to help everyone out, especially given the circumstances.
Yeah, so we're going to end a little early today. Thank you guys for coming. We're going to have on May 26th, just our end of year sort of wrap up. I know this is a new group and another ask for you guys that we're hoping that, you know, in these spaces, being able to be responsive to what you need and putting, you know, this team putting together some data systems and tools for you guys, visualizations to utilize in your spaces at your sites is helpful to you. And so again, please reach out with any feedback, but you can note again the dates for next year. And thank you for coming. Good luck with your wrapping up for this school year. Good to see you all.